Welcome to the Truth Report, where if we see something, we say something, for February 2nd, 2012. I'm your host, David Chase Taylor of truther.org. I'm reporting to you live from Zurich, Switzerland, where I've applied for asylum since the release of my book, The Nuclear Bible. You can go to nuclearbible.com today and download it for free. As you know, this is a weekly show dedicated to stopping false flag terrorism. We know that Obama desperately needs a false flag terror attack to stay in office, and we're doing our best to make sure that doesn't happen. So every week we'll be here reporting live on the drills, the patsies, the war games, the plots, the exercises, anything and everything related to false flag terror events. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Okay, so before we get started, we have three huge topics that we're covering today, and I'm going to quickly go over headlines regarding nuclear terror incidents. Actually, take that back. Nuclear reactor incidents in the United States and around the world over the last few weeks, and what that's trending towards. Also, we're going to look back at Superbowl XLV in Dallas, Texas last year, and we're going to look ahead to Indianapolis, Superbowl XLVI in Indianapolis this weekend. Okay, so just going back to the disaster in Fukushima last year on I believe it was March 11th of 2011. For people that don't know, there was an Israeli security company that was in charge of that nuclear reactor prior to the explosion and subsequent catastrophe that happened. So fast forwarding to right now, I just started noticing that there's been just a bunch of information coming out about nuclear reactors having all sorts of problems across the United States, and upon further research, I found these following articles, and these articles are going to be under nuclear reactor terror at truther.org. But I'm just going to read them off to you really quick. San Onofre plant closed after a radiation leak, February 1st. Officials trying to learn what happened at Illinois reactor that shut down amid power failure, January 21st. Nuclear accidents pose a little risk to health, NRC says. A couple more accidents. Nuclear reactor shut down. This is in New York. Minor malfunction at Chinese nuclear plant. Fed site Palisades nuclear plant. Employee over control room incident. He was apparently surfing the internet while supposed to be taking care of the reactor. Heavy water spill at nuclear plant could have been avoided. That's in Canada. Nuclear power plant shut down after off-site power loss. This was in Kansas. Mistake at Tennessee nuclear reactor causes work stoppage. Chinese deny nuclear accident. North Korea's new nuclear plant, a safety worry. That's in the Chicago Tribune. Radioactive material stolen from Egyptian plant. I talked about this last week. Nuclear reactor operates caught surfing on the web while on duty. Iranian warfare spark closure of Israel nuclear plant. Nuclear Commission says Point La Pro leaks unsettling, so more leaks at a Canadian nuclear plant. I can't even pronounce this, but it's in I believe in China. Gungo residents fret over malfunctioning nuclear reactor, January 13th. A 3 Mile Island nuclear plant finds unexpected flaws in new steam generators, January 26th. Furnace malfunction hobbles Anurai spent nuclear fuel reprocessing plant, January 31st. That one's in Japan also. Nuclear accident releases tritium near Chicago. Contamination found at nuclear site. Japanese nuclear plant leaks contaminated water. All 3 nuclear reactors in Chicago suspended, also in Japan. Federal panel faults Idaho lab for radiation exposure mishap, from Reuters, January 19th. And so those are just a few headlines of nuclear reactor incidents that have occurred just in 2012. I didn't talk about 2011. So obviously this is trending towards something probably happening in the United States regarding a nuclear reactor. Okay, so let's jump back to The Nuclear Bible is a book that I wrote last year regarding Superbowl XLV in Dallas, Texas on February 6th, 2011. For people that don't know, on February 1st, 2011, Julian Assange released a classified cable classified diplomatic cable, basically stating that Al-Qaeda was on the brink of using a nuclear bomb and that the West was on the verge of a nuclear 9/11. My book, The Nuclear Bible, came out 4 days prior to this. So while Assange didn't name the target date and location of the nuclear terror attack, the Nuclear Bible did, and I phoned numerous intelligence agencies and police offices throughout the United States last year and made sure that this attack did not happen. And now I'm going to go quickly over the evidence, just the headlines. All of this is at truther.org. You can read it, research it. Okay, so before, I'm going to go over the evidence before the game, during the game, and after the game. Just the headlines really quick, because it's very extensive, but I'm just going to go over the headlines. So we had a 2010 Nuclear Security Summit where Obama said the single biggest threat to the United States was nuclear terrorism. This was 14 months before. Then 20 months before, we started having mass casualty nuclear and disaster drills all throughout Texas. NLE 209, we had a huge disaster drill in Beaumont. We had a live-action hurricane drill in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We had a radiation drill using a school bus. Then we have a huge canceled nuclear terror attack test that was supposed to happen in Las Vegas. Then we had foreign troops in Texas, Chilean and Czechoslovakian troops, and their flags are almost identical to Texas. In 6 months to the day of the Super Bowl. Then we had a nuclear detection plan submitted to Congress by Department of Homeland Security just 6 weeks prior. Plausible deniability. Then we had a joint special event threat assessment issued, a 9-page document basically stating that the Super Bowl was not a target. There was no credible threat, but it basically laid out how the Super Bowl would be attacked. This came out 3 weeks before. Then they stated that U.S. nuclear detectors were not properly tested. Again, plausible deniability. Then the exact same scenario that was in the joint threat assessment actually happened, where they said that terrorists would steal information and identification purposes to get inside the stadium. And then we have NFL laptops and information thefts. We had 3 laptops and a thumb drive with encrypted software stolen in Dallas just before the Super Bowl. Then we have a global ambassador summit in Washington, D.C. 260 heads of embassies and consulates all met in Washington, D.C. And flashback to 9/11, just 10 weeks prior to 9/11, there was a huge anti-terrorism summit in Dubai involving the State Department as well. So, and then coming up to the game, we have these huge terror alerts. Worldwide caution, January 31st. The U.S. issues a global terror alert regarding India and Pakistan. And then Pakistan was slated to be scapegoated in this attack. And then UK and US warn about nuclear threat. That's from Russia, Voice of Russia. And then the Al-Qaeda nuclear bomb. This was huge. WikiLeaks stating that basically Al-Qaeda has a nuclear bomb. This article has disappeared from the Vancouver Sun, but I've actually, screen saved it. And we have a lot of supporting articles that are still on the web. World on brink of nuclear 9/11 as Al-Qaeda plans large dirty bomb. WikiLeaks, Al-Qaeda on brink of using a nuclear bomb. Then we have the, I call them the bipolar Super Bowl terror warnings. On February 3rd, they say, officials say there's no specific threat to the Super Bowl. And then the next day, they say the feds warn of disguised terrorists at Super Bowl, CBS News. So basically, again, very strange. Then you have, right before the game, you have the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and NFL forge a partnership in crime. And so that's just leading up to the game. So then at the game, we have Barack Obama's Super Bowl party. Basically, Obama, the 2 years prior to this, he basically had like a couple celebrities there and like a lot of senators and a lot of congressmen there. But on this particular day, he had everybody that would be there to respond to a nuclear terror attack. So he was going to state, I was watching the game and this attack happened, and he was going to be flanked by everybody. We got U.S. Secretary of Housing and Development, Secretary of Education, U.S. Attorney General, Administrator of the EPA, Lisa Jackson, Janet Napolitano, head of DHS, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Secretary of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and Secretary of Veteran Affairs, and Secretary of Agriculture, Tom Vilsack. So everybody there that was needed for a nuclear terror incident. Okay, During the game, there was reported at the time 485 seats that were actually empty due to them not being completed, despite the stadium being finished in 2009. And during the articles, you can read, and they basically state that the seats were, they were extra seats, because Jerry Jones wanted to have a huge crowd for this event. But if you look at the pictures, just Google empty seats at Super Bowl and look at the photos on Google, and these different seating arrangements are all over the stadium, and they're like in the middle of like permanent seating areas. So, anyway, they covered them up with like big black blankets, and then they had armed guards guard them the entire game. You got to wonder what was under those blankets there. Now they're stating that there was 1,250 seats that were empty. So I don't know what was going to go down, but it wasn't good. The disguised terrorist seating. And then Governor Rick Perry, he was in California for what would have been Ronald Reagan's 100th birthday, instead of going to the Super Bowl, which he's the governor of Texas, the first time that Texas has ever hosted a Super Bowl. Also, George W. Bush, first he was saying that he was going to the game, then he was saying he wasn't going to the game, then he was coming to Switzerland to speak at a Jewish fundraiser, and then he cancels that, and then he ends up going to the game. And then the whole game he's reading a book. We don't know if it's the Nuclear Bible, but we like to think so. And then just deja vu, on 9/11, Clinton went to Australia, Gore went to Austria, so kind of getting out of the country before something goes down. And then there's about 12 cancellations of events in and around the Super Bowl. And basically, we don't know why they were canceled. They cited the weather, but on the day of the game, it was relatively warm. Okay, so let's look after the Super Bowl really quickly. 1 week to the day after the Super Bowl, the U.S. invades Libya. There's now an Al-Qaeda flag flying on the top of Libya. So in my estimation, it seems to me like they were ready to go into Pakistan, who was slated to take the blame for this nuclear terror attack. And they decided to basically shift gears, take out Gaddafi, who's been shaking hands with Obama and Tony Blair. So it didn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people why they took him out. I mean, he was in there for 40 years. And so it looked like a diversion, and now they're probably going to set up Libya as like an Al-Qaeda state near Europe that can menace the West. That's interesting. 9 weeks after the game, the head security chief of the NFL resigns with no reason cited. And then 12 weeks after the game, Osama bin Laden is assassinated in Pakistan. So it seems like they kind of like, okay, this whole idea of Osama bin Laden nuking the Super Bowl is kind of dead now. We're not going to do that, so we'll just kill him off. So that's quite interesting. And then let's just take a look. So that wraps up that. And if you want to know, my life has completely changed since the release of the Nuclear Bible, and I've applied for asylum here in Switzerland. You can go to davidchasetaylor.com and check this out. But basically, things have really gotten a little crazy since the release of that book, let me tell you. Just fast forwarding to this year's Super Bowl, I'm not quite sure what was supposed to happen in Indianapolis. Let's just say hypothetically that there was an attack in Dallas, Texas last year. People would be very, very, very scared coming into this Super Bowl. So I don't know if they were planning a bioterror attack, but I'm going to go over the headlines now. And basically, I don't think anything's going to happen this year. But what may have been planned is interesting because a few weeks after the game, there was a report from Indianapolis that stated that the Indy police are going on high alert. And then just a few days later, they roll out this new system in Indianapolis. Basically, it's a text terror alert system that basically issues a terror text alert to the people in a crowded area. So if there was like a bioterror attack, for example, everybody would get the message, and then people would panic and freak out. And then they started having at Indiana University. They started having these like counter-terror seminars, and they brought in all these top speakers like Keenan of the 9/11 Commission Report, and it's all about bioterror, and they were doing all these like drills and stuff. And then what's interesting is they started cutting all the funding all the federal funding and grants for counterterrorism in Indianapolis were cut right after the game. So it's interesting to me because either there was something planned or there wasn't, but they cut the funds. So it's either they decided to scrap the plans and they cut the funding, or they want to make Obama look weak on terrorism if something happens. But my hunch and my gut feeling says nothing's going to happen this Super Bowl, but it's definitely something to take a look at and check it out. Okay, I'm done talking here. All the information that I talked to you today about is at truther.org. We have been getting really censored by YouTube and Google, and so please share our videos, please like our videos, please forward our videos. And as I mentioned earlier, I have applied for asylum, and so check that out at davidchasetaylor.com. And just quickly, our websites are nuclearbible.com, truther.org, and Obama CSI, Exposing the Future Assassination of Barack Obama. Signing out from Zurich, Switzerland, David Chase Taylor. Peace.